There is a version of you that you have spent your entire life trying not to be. The angry one, the selfish one, the jealous one, the one who wants things you have been told you should not want, the one who feels things you have been taught to be ashamed of. You have worked very hard to keep this version hidden from other people, and most of all, from yourself. Carl Jung called this the shadow. And he believed, after decades of studying the human mind, that everything you refuse to acknowledge about yourself does not disappear. It goes underground. And from underground, it runs your life. Today, we are going to meet the shadow, not to fear it, not to become it, but to finally understand the part of yourself that has been quietly shaping everything, your relationships, your choices, your patterns, without your knowledge or your permission. Carl Gustav Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist who spent his life mapping the unconscious mind, a student of Freud who eventually broke from him, not because he thought Freud was wrong about the unconscious, but because he believed it went far deeper than Freud imagined. Where Freud saw the unconscious as a repository of repressed desires, Jung saw something larger, a vast, largely unmapped interior world, containing not just our personal history, but the accumulated wisdom and darkness of the entire human experience. And at the heart of that interior world, Jung identified the shadow. The shadow, in Jung's framework, is the unconscious repository of everything we have rejected about ourselves, everything we were told was unacceptable, everything that received a negative response when we were young and learning how to be a person in the world. It is not evil, though it can contain dark things. It is simply the unlived parts of who you are. To understand how the shadow forms, we have to go back to the beginning. When you were very young, you arrived in the world as a complete person. The full spectrum of human emotion was available to you: joy and rage, tenderness and selfishness, fear and pride. You felt everything, and you expressed everything without filter or apology. And then, slowly, carefully, the world began to teach you which parts of that spectrum were acceptable. You cried and were told big kids do not cry. You expressed anger and were punished for it. You wanted something for yourself and were told that was selfish. You felt proud and were told not to show off. These were not necessarily bad lessons. Many of them came from people who loved you and were trying to help you survive in a social world. But the feelings themselves did not go away. They could not. So you did what every child does. You learned to hide them, first from others, and eventually, so thoroughly, from yourself. That hiding place is the shadow. Now here is where it becomes important and where most people are surprised. The shadow does not only contain what we consider dark, it contains everything we have suppressed, including things that are genuinely good. Ambition that was shamed, creativity that was dismissed, sensitivity that was mocked, the desire for more than what you were told you deserved. Jung called this the golden shadow, the buried potential that lives alongside the buried pain. Many people in doing shadow work discover not just their darkness, but their unlived greatness. So how does the shadow show up in your life? Because it does show up, constantly, just not in the ways you might expect. The first way is through projection. Projection is when we see in others what we cannot see or will not see in ourselves. The person who irritates you most, the quality in someone else that makes your jaw tighten, your temperature rise, Your patience disappears instantly. Jung believed this reaction is almost never purely about the other person. It is a mirror. When we have deeply buried a quality in ourselves, buried it so well that we no longer recognize it as ours, we become extraordinarily sensitive to seeing it in others, and we react to it with a force that is disproportionate. That disproportionate reaction is the tell. If someone's arrogance infuriates you beyond reason, ask yourself where you have suppressed your own pride. If someone's neediness repels you, ask where you have buried your own longing to be held. If someone's anger frightens you, ask where your own anger has been locked away. The second way the shadow appears is through what Jung called the sudden eruption. You are a calm, controlled, reasonable person, and then, out of nowhere, seemingly, you snap. You say something you cannot take back. You act in a way that shocks even you. You look back afterward and think, that was not me. But it was. It was the shadow, which had been compressed for so long that the pressure finally exceeded the container. And the third way, perhaps the most costly, is through self-sabotage. When the unconscious carries beliefs we have never examined, that we are not worthy, that good things do not last, that being seen is dangerous, it finds ways to confirm those beliefs, even when we consciously want something different. This is why we can want love and push people away, want success and undermine ourselves at the critical moment, want peace and manufacture chaos when things are going too well. The shadow is not trying to destroy you, it is trying to keep you in the familiar, and it will do whatever it takes. And if you need a more visible example, look at the people who campaign loudest against something, only to be found guilty of it themselves. The politician who crusades against corruption while taking bribes. The preacher who delivers sermons on virtue while living the opposite in private. The wellness influencer performing peace and contentment online while privately falling apart. This is not hypocrisy in the simple sense. This is the shadow erupting after years, sometimes decades, of compression. The louder someone performs a virtue, the more worth asking, what are they burying beneath it? Jung's answer to all of this was not suppression, it was integration. And this is the part that most people misunderstand about shadow work. Integration does not mean becoming your shadow. It does not mean acting on every dark impulse or giving the buried parts free rein. It means acknowledging them, turning toward them rather than away, bringing them into the light of consciousness where they lose the power that darkness gave them. Jung wrote, and this line has stayed with me, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The goal is not a self without a shadow. That self does not exist. The goal is a self that knows its shadow and is therefore no longer blindly ruled by it. Jung called this process individuation. The slow, lifelong work of becoming whole, not by eliminating the shadow, but by knowing it, owning it, integrating it into a conscious, examined life. So, how do you begin? 3 starting points, none of them requiring a therapist, though therapy is one of the most powerful ways to do this work. The first is to notice what triggers you. For the next week, pay attention to any reaction that feels larger than the situation warrants, any irritation, disgust, or judgment that arrives with unusual force. Do not act on it and do not suppress it. Just notice it, and then ask, quietly, without self-judgment, what does this reaction say about something in me? The second is a journaling practice. Take a page and write at the top, "The person I'm most afraid of becoming is..." And then write, without editing, without performing. Let whatever comes, come. What arrives on that page is shadow material. It is the self you have been most careful to suppress, and sitting with it on paper, rather than running from it, begins the process of integration. What do I judge most harshly in other people? Sit with that answer, really sit with it, and then ask, with as much honesty as you can manage, where does this quality live in me? The answer will not always be comfortable, but it will always be useful. Jung believed that the meeting with the shadow's self was the beginning of wisdom. Not the end of the journey, the beginning. Because the person who has never looked at their shadow is not a person without darkness. They are a person who does not know where their darkness is. And that person, however good their intentions, will keep projecting it outward, keep erupting, keep sabotaging, keep hurting others and themselves in ways they cannot explain. The person who has looked, who has sat in the uncomfortable presence of their own unlived self, that person is no longer at its mercy. Integration is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming whole. And wholeness, not perfection, is what it actually feels like to be free. If this video opened something in you that you would like to explore further, I have left some books in the description that go much deeper into Jung's work and shadow integration. If something in this video recognized you, sit with it. You do not need to do anything with it yet. Just let yourself be seen. If it helped you, share it with someone who might need it. This is Psyche and Stillness. I will see you in the next one.